Hi again, and welcome to day 7 of week 15 in the Bible in a Year Live Project podcast. My name is Shane.
And my name is Sharone Dennis.
Today we'll be reading from 1 Samuel chapter 15 to 17.
We'll be reading from the Amplified Version as we've been reading all week.
Remember, you can join us live every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. on Zoom, Eastern Daylight Time, as we discuss all the things that we've read during the week. You can find the details to join that meeting in the description, or you can also find the links and such on our website at BIAYLproject.com. But for now, let us dive into today's reading. 1 Samuel chapter 15. Saul's disobedience. Samuel said to Saul, "The Lord sent me to anoint you king over his people Israel. Now listen and pay close attention to the words of the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts' armies, I will punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, how he set himself against him on the way when Israel came up from Egypt. Now go and strike Amalek and completely destroy everything that they have. Do not spare them, but kill both men and woman, child and infant, ox and sheep, camel and donkey." So Saul summoned the people and numbered them at Telaim, 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 men of Judah. Saul came to the city of Amalek and set an ambush in the valley. Saul said to the Kenites, "Go, leave, go down from the Amalekites, so that I do not destroy you along with them, for you showed kindness to all the Israelites when they went up from Egypt." So the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites. Saul defeated the Amalekites from Havilah as far as Shur, which is east of Egypt. He captured Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, though he totally destroyed all the rest of the people with the sword. Saul and the people spared Agag, and the best of the sheep, the oxen, the fatlings, the lambs, and everything that was good, and they were not willing to destroy them entirely, but everything that was undesirable or worthless they destroyed completely. Samuel rebukes Saul. Then the word of the Lord came to Samuel, saying, "I regret that I made Saul king, for he has turned away from following me and has not carried out my commands." Samuel was angry over Saul's failure, and he cried out to the Lord all night. When Samuel got up early in the morning to meet Saul, he was told, "Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set up for himself a monument commemorating his victory." Then he turned and went on and went down to Gilgal. So Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said to him, "Blessed are you of the Lord. I have carried out the command of the Lord." But Samuel said, "What then is this bleating of the sheep in my ears, and the lowing of the oxen which I hear?" Saul said, "They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and oxen to sacrifice to the Lord your God, but the rest we have destroyed completely." Then Samuel said to Saul, "Stop, and let me tell you what the Lord said to me last night." Saul said to him, "Speak." Samuel said, "Is it not true that even though you are small, insignificant in your own eyes, you were made the head of the tribes of Israel? And the Lord anointed you king over Israel. And the Lord sent you on a mission and said, 'Go, totally destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are eliminated.' Why did you not obey the voice of the Lord, but instead swooped down on the plunder with shouts of victory, and did evil in the sight of the Lord?" Saul said to Samuel, "I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone on the mission on which the Lord sent me, and have brought back Agag, the king of Amalek, and have completely destroyed the Amalekites. But the people took some of the spoil, sheep and oxen, the best of the things that were to be totally destroyed, to sacrifice to the Lord your God at Gilgal." Samuel says, "Has the Lord as great a delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obedience to the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as serious as the sin of divination. Fortune telling and disobedience is as serious as false religion and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he also has rejected you as king. Then Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the command of the Lord and your words, because I have feared the people and obeyed their voice. Now please, pardon my sin and return with me, so that I may worship the Lord. But Samuel said to Saul, I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord has rejected you from being king over Israel. As Samuel turned to go away, Saul grabbed the hem of his robe to stop him, and it tore. So Samuel said to him, The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today, and has given it to your neighbor, who is better than you. Also, the splendor and glory and eminence of Israel will not lie or change his mind, for he is not a man that he should change his mind. So Saul said, I have sinned, but please honor me now before the elders of my people and before Israel, and go back with me, so that I may worship the Lord your God. So Samuel went back following Saul, and Saul worshipped the Lord. Then Samuel said, Bring me Agag, the king of the Amalekites. And Agag came to him cheerfully. And Agag said, Surely the bitterness of death has come to an end. Samuel said, As your sword has made women childless, so shall your mother be childless among women. And Samuel cut Agag in pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. Then Samuel went to Ramah, but Saul went up to his house in Gibeah of Saul. Samuel did not see Saul again until the day of his death, for Samuel grieved over Saul, and the Lord regretted that he had made Saul king over Israel. 1 Samuel 16. Samuel goes to Bethlehem. The Lord said to Samuel, How long will you grieve for Saul, when I have rejected him as king over Israel? Fill your horn with oil and go. I will send you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have chosen a king for myself among his sons. But Samuel said, How can I go? When Saul hears about it, he will kill me. And the Lord said, Take a heifer from the herd with you, and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. You shall invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show you what you shall do after that. And you shall anoint for me the one whom I designate. So Samuel did what the Lord said, and came to Bethlehem. And the elders of the city came trembling to meet him and said, Do you come in peace? And he said, In peace? I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Consecrate yourself and come with me to the sacrifice. He also consecrated Jesse and his sons, and invited them to the sacrifice. So it happened, when they had come, he looked at Eliab the eldest son, and thought, Surely the Lord's anointed is before him. But the Lord said to Samuel, Do not look at his appearance, or at the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For the Lord sees not as man sees. For man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Then Jesse called Abinadab, and had him pass before Samuel. But Samuel said, The Lord has not chosen this one either. Next Jesse had Shammah pass by, and Samuel said, The Lord has not chosen him either. Jesse had 7 of his sons pass before Samuel, but Samuel said to Jesse, The Lord has not chosen any of these. Then Samuel said to Jesse, Are all your sons here? Jesse replied, There is still one left, the youngest. He is still tending the sheep. Samuel said to Jesse, Send word and bring him, because we will not sit down to eat the sacrificial meal until he comes here. David anointed. So Jesse sent word and brought him in. Now he had a ruddy complexion, with beautiful eyes and a handsome appearance. The Lord said to Samuel, Arise, anoint him, for this is he. Then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed David in the presence of his brothers. And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon David from that day forward. And Samuel arose and went to Ramah. Now the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord tormented and terrified him. Saul's servant said to him, Behold, an evil spirit from God is tormenting you. Let our Lord now command your servants who are here before you to find a man who plays skillfully on the harp, and when the evil spirit from God is on you, he shall play the harp with his hand, and you will be well. So Saul told his servants, Find me a man who plays well, and bring him to me. One of the young men said, Behold, I have seen a son of Jesse, the Bethlehemite, who is a skillful musician, a brave and competent man, a warrior, discerning, prudent, eloquent in speech, and a handsome man, and the Lord is with him. So Saul sent messengers to Jesse and said, Send me David your son, who is with the flock. Jesse took a donkey, loaded it with bread and a jug of wine, and a young goat, and sent them to Saul with David his son. Then David came to Saul and attended him. Saul loved him greatly, and later David became his armor bearer. Saul sent word to Jesse, saying, Please let David be my attendant, for he has found favor in my sight. So it came about that whenever the evil spirit from God was on Saul, David took a harp and played it with his hand. So Saul would be refreshed and be well, and the evil spirit would leave him.
1 Samuel chapter 17, Goliath's challenge. Now the Philistines gathered their army for battle and were assembled at Succoth, which belongs to Judah. And they camped between Succoth and Azekah in Ephes Dammim. Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together, and they camped in the valley of Elah and assembled in battle formation to meet the Philistines. The Philistines were standing on the mountain on one side, and Israel was standing on the mountain on the other side, with a valley between them. Then a champion came out from the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. He had a bronze helmet on his head and wore a coat of scale armor overlapping metal plates, which weighed 5,000 shekels of bronze. He had bronze shin protectors on his legs, and a bronze javelin hung between his shoulders. The wooden shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam. The blade head of his spear weighed 600 shekels of iron, and a shield bearer walked in front of him. Goliath stood and shouted to the battle lines of Israel, saying to them, Why have you come out to draw up for battle? Am I not the Philistine, and are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourselves, and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will become your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall become our servants and serve us. Again, the Philistine said, I defy the battle lines of Israel this day. Give me a man so that we may fight together. When Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now David was the son of the Ephrathite of Bethlehem in Judah, named Jesse, who had 8 sons. Jesse was old in the days of Saul, advanced in years among men. His 3 older sons had followed Saul into battle. The names of his 3 sons who went to battle were Eliab, the firstborn, next Abinadab, and third Shammah. David was the youngest. Now the 3 oldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to tend his father's flock at Bethlehem. The Philistine, Goliath, came out morning and evening and took his stand for 40 days. Then Jesse said to David his son, Take for your brothers an ephah of this roasted grain, and then 10 loaves of bread, and run quickly to the camp to your brothers. Also, take these 10 cuts of cheese to the commander of the unit. See how your brothers are doing, and bring back news of them. Now they are with Saul and all the men of Israel in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. David accepts the challenge. So David got up early in the morning, left the flock with a keeper, picked up the provisions, and went just as Jesse had directed him. And he came to the encampment as the army was going out in battle formation, shouting the battle cry. Israel and the Philistines drew up in battle formation, army against army. Then David left his provisions in the care of the supply keeper and ran to the ranks and came and greeted his brothers. As he was talking with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine of Gath named Goliath, was coming up from the army of the Philistines, and he spoke these same words again, and David heard him. When the men of Israel all saw the man, they fled from him and were very frightened. The men of Israel said, Have you seen this man who is coming up? Surely he is coming up to defy Israel. The king will reward the man who kills him with great riches, and will give him his daughter in marriage, and make his father's house family free from taxes and services in Israel. Then David spoke to the men who were standing by him. What will be done for the man who kills the Philistine and removes the disgrace of his taunting from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he has taunted and defied the armies of the living God? The men told him, This is what will be done for the man who kills him. Now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard what he said to the men, and Eliab's anger burned against David, and he said, Why have you come down here? With whom did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption, overconfidence, and the evil of your heart, for you have come down in order to see the battle. But David said, What have I done now? Was it not just a harmless question? Then David turned away from Eliab to someone else and asked the same question, and the people gave him the same answer as the first time. David kills Goliath. When the words that David spoke were heard, the men reported them to Saul, and he sent for him. David said to Saul, Let no man's courage fail because of him, Goliath. Your servant will go out and fight with this Philistine. Then Saul said to David, You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight him, for you are only a young man, and he has been a warrior since his youth. But David said to Saul, Your servant was tending his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after it and attacked it and rescued the lamb from its mouth. When it rose up against me, I seized it by its whiskers and struck and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, since he has taunted and defied the armies of the living God. David said, The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, Go, and may the Lord be with you. Then Saul dressed David in garments and put a bronze helmet on his head and put a coat of mail armor on him. Then David fastened his sword over his armor and tried to walk, but he could not, because he was not used to them. And David said to Saul, I cannot go out in these, because I am not used to them. So David took them off. Then he took his shepherd's staff in his hand and chose for himself 5 smooth stones out of the stream bed and put them in his shepherd's bag, which he had, that is, in his shepherd's pouch. With his sling in his hand, he approached the Philistine. The Philistine came and approached David, with his shield bearer in front of him. When the Philistine looked around and saw David, he derided and disparaged him because he was just a young man, with a ruddy complexion and a handsome appearance. The Philistine said to David, Am I a dog that you come to me with shepherd's staffs? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine also said to David, Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the sky and the beasts of the field. Then David said to the Philistine, You come to me with a sword, a spear, and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have taunted. This day the Lord will hand you over to me, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. And I will give the corpses of the army of the Philistines this day to the birds of the sky and the wild beasts of the earth, so that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that this entire assembly may know that the Lord does not save with the sword or with the spear. For the battle is the Lord's, and he will hand you over to us. When the Philistine rose and came forward to meet David, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. David put his hand into his bag and took out a stone and slung it, and it struck the Philistine on his forehead. The stone penetrated his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and he struck down the Philistine and killed him, but there was no sword in David's hand. So he ran and stood over the Philistine, grasped his sword, and drew it out of its sheath